Now then, how are you doing? I'm Steve, and welcome to my workshop. So, I've been asked to make a coffee table, and better still, get paid for it. There's just one tiny little problem. I've never built anything from pallet wood in my life. So this should be fun. I needed some pallets, so Richard the village woodwomble said, "Come with me, I know where to go, and they're all free." Richard kindly brought the pallets home in his van with me, and I decided to break them up in the garden as the workshop is far too small. Now there are many ways to break up pallets, but I'm going to use a method used by Jesper from Jesper Makes. He has a great video showing how to break up pallets, and I'll leave a link in the description below. In total I broke up 5 pallets, but I don't need 5 pallets for this project. On this pallet, the nails holding the slats down had all been bent over and I couldn't release them, so I decided to cut them up with a jigsaw, and I'll use this on a different project. The next step was to take all the nails out. Yes, all those nails. No fancy tools needed, just a hammer, a crowbar, pair of pliers, and a piece of scrap wood. And I have to say, I found this strangely very therapeutic. It's at this moment that I'm thinking, this is never going to turn out to be a quality coffee table, is it? If anybody wants to buy a quality plastic tub filled with rusty old bent nails, please leave a comment below. Of course, you'll have to pay the postage. After I'd taken all the nails out, I checked, double checked and triple checked there was no more nails before I put them through the planer. Then I jointed one edge of the boards, so I've got something flat to lay up against my table saw fence. Well, about time. I feel like I'm finally making something now. I'm cutting the boards up into strips because I need a tabletop and I also need a shelf for underneath the table for your magazines and other knickknacks you might have. I'm hoping, and I say hoping, fingers crossed, that I can make some sort of mid-century modern masterpiece coffee table out of all this rubbish wood. We'll see. So, the strips are all cut, and you know what? For the first time, it might just be looking a bit like a nice coffee table. So it's finally glue up time, and I'm gluing the top and the shelf in two separate halves, so once dry I can put them through the planer and then join them back together to get a complete top and a complete shelf. Hope that makes sense. And I glued up the other three sections in exactly the same way. I left the panels dry overnight and I took the clamps off the next day. And I almost suffered the world's first unclamping head injury. This panel had got stuck to the underside of the clamps, so I gave it a little tap with a mallet. Hey, watch out, Stevie baby! So with the panels out the clamps, I gave them a light scrape to remove some of the glue, and then a light sand with some 80 grit sandpaper just to get a bit more glue off, because I don't want to damage those planer blades. I put the panels through the thicknesser, milling the top down to 25mm in thickness, and the lower shelf down to 20mm in thickness. Off camera, I also jointed one edge of each board so they fit better together. So now I'm going to join the two halves of the top and the two halves of the bottom shelf together. Now I could just put some glue on and clamp them up and that would be fine, but I want to make sure that these are really flat. So to that end, I'm going to use the world's most divisive woodworking tool, the Festool Domino. Not because it adds any strength, but because it will help me get the top and the shelf nice and flat. If you don't have a domino, you could use dowels or biscuits, or like I said, just glue. They'll all be just as good. So I glued the edges of the panels, I put glue in the mortise holes for the dominoes, and I put some glue on the dominoes and clamped that baby up and left it dry overnight. The next day I cut one straight edge on the top using the track saw, and I set the blade to 10 degrees to give it a nice mid-modern century look. Mid-century modern look? One of those looks. Then I squared up one end and cut it to width and then cut it to length. Bingo! Top all done. So it's time to move on to the legs. I took some of the stretches from the original pallets, milled them up and made some blanks for the legs. I set the mitre gauge on my table saw to 10 degrees and I'm cutting both ends at 10 degrees. So since I'm going to make some tapered legs, I made myself a little tapering jig out of some scrap MDF and scrap bits of plywood. I have to say, the belief's getting stronger that this is going to be a nice table. The legs are joined to the aprons by half laps, so I'm cutting these on the table saw again with my mitre square at 10 degrees. And I'm also using a flat-topped tooth blade. And I'm just taking my time and edging up on the perfect fit. Now it's important to remember I've got to cut two legs one way with the mitre gauge and then realign the mitre gauge in the opposite direction to cut two of the legs, otherwise I'll have legs that don't fit. Then sneaking up on that cut again, and happy days, it all fits. So now it's time to glue the legs up. I'd marked on the apron where the inside of each leg should be, put some glue on the legs, put some clamps on, and happy days, the job's a good one. Okay, the last bit of sawing. So I took another piece of the pallet stretcher, setting the saw blade to 10 degrees. I cut some stretchers for the tabletop and for the little shelf underneath. Once the glue had dried on the stretchers, I cut off the excess with the bandsaw. I could have used a handsaw, I suppose, but I had a bandsaw, so I used the bandsaw. Then I sanded the edges flush with the sander. To fix the base together, I'm going to use screws and wood plugs. I've clamped the base up, and I'll temporarily fix everything with just the screws. Okay, so it's now time to glue up the base, and I'm going to do this in 2 halves just to make it a little bit less stressful. So I cut some plugs with a plug cutter and put some glue on and bang those babies home. I threw some clamps on and let it dry overnight. Then I used the flush trim saw to cut off the excess. Then I sanded the plugs flush, and then I gave the whole base a sand up to 180 grit. I wanted the base to be jet black, so I used Rubio Monocoat Intense Black Pre-Colour. This isn't a protective finish, but it will serve as a base coat when I put the top coat on. After the Intense Black had dried, I used Rubio Monocoat Oil Plus 2C Charcoal, and it's amazing stuff. Just rub it on, leave it a little while, and then rub it off. And yeah, you guessed it, I used Rubio Monocoat Oil Plus 2C Pure for the top of the shelf. Again, just rub it on, leave it a little while, and buff it off. It looks fantastic. I drilled some oversized holes with a counter bore so that they were wider than the screws when attaching the top and the shelf to the base, just to allow for some wood movement. So, some eagle-eyed viewers may think, I think I've seen that table before, and you would be right, because this table was designed by Chris Salamoni from Foureyes Furniture, and he has a video about making the table. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. And at the end of the video, he offers the plans for free. Now, these plans ain't just two sides of A4 with a cut list and a few drawings. These are detailed plans with videos, in-depth instructions, and he normally charges between £70 to £90 in this country for those plans, but you get them for free. So if you want to make a table like this, watch the video, get the plans. Honestly, they're fantastic. Okay, well, as always, thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed making the table, and I'll see you all on the next one. And I better go and get this delivered now, hadn't I? Okay, see you later.